known for his brilliant, beloved, and influential music such as West Side Story, The Cottage Symphony, and Wonderful Town. Leonard Bernstein has earned his place as one of the most celebrated composers of the 20th century. But before these works, before Candide, and even before the Grammy-nominated score to On the Waterfront, Bernstein would dabble in the realm of chamber brass music. Among some of Bernstein's best-known compositions are works such as the musicals West Side Story and On the Town, the operas Candide and A Quiet Place, the Jeremiah and the Cottage Symphonies, and even a film score to the 1954 movie On the Waterfront. However, the compositional list of Bernstein is much longer and more diverse than what he is most well known for. While there are dozens of works composed by Bernstein for large ensembles, he has also composed a handful of chamber works, including a piano trio, a violin sonata, a clarinet sonata, and music for various brass instrument configurations. Bernstein also loved celebrating his friends with short, often high-spirited works composed for celebratory events like birthdays. These were almost always for piano and bore the heading Anniversary. Especially in the 1940s, he composed over a dozen such works for Aaron Copland, for Sergei Koussevitzky, and for his sister Shirley, among others. Along with the love for his friends, Bernstein was known to love dogs, including the dogs of his friends. Bernstein's first venture into brass chamber music was composed in 1948 and exemplified this love for canines. This collection of 5 short pieces was commissioned by the Juilliard Musical Foundation, and each piece pays tribute to a specific pet pooch of his acquaintances. Although the music was published in 1948, it wasn't officially premiered until 1959, when they were performed by members of the New York Philharmonic at Carnegie Hall in New York City.
It is rare for a piece like this, chamber music in a very short form with a touch of humor involved, to be performed in a symphony concert. This may be why it had to wait a decade from composition to premiere. Stephen Ledbetter, Rockford Symphony Orchestra.
The occasion was a benefit concert for the New York Philharmonic Pension Fund, and at such events, usually gala performances at advanced prices, the audience is promised a number of surprises. In this particular concert, comedian Jack Benny was one participant, playing the opening of a violin concerto, which was taken over by the Philharmonic's concertmaster, John Corigliano, when Benny pretended to lose his place. It is in that spirit that Bernstein's tribute to his favorite dogs took place. Although this collection of 5 short pieces are seemingly related, they are rarely performed together as a set. Each piece features different instrumentation: a trumpet solo with piano accompaniment, a horn solo with piano accompaniment, an unaccompanied trombone solo, a tuba solo with piano accompaniment, and finally a brass quartet. Though each of these pieces are paying homage to a different pup, they are all dedicated to Leonard Bernstein's brother, Burton. The first piece in this collection is called Rondo for Lifey, composed for trumpet and piano, and was inspired by a Skye Terrier named Lifey, who was owned by an actress friend of Bernstein's, Judy Holliday. Holliday was born in 1921 in Brooklyn, New York, and at birth was named Judith Tuvum, but for stage purposes later changed her last name to Holliday. Holliday is a translation from the Hebrew Tuvum. Bernstein and Holliday first became friends around 1938, when she joined a Manhattan-based troupe of hopeful actors and musicians called the Reviewers, where she finally got a chance to perform. Two of the actors in The Reviewers were longtime colleagues and collaborators of Bernstein's, Betty Comden and Adolph Green, and often Bernstein would join the group as their piano accompanist. The contrast between the bouncing-like rhythms against the long flowing themes exemplify the rondo form and provide us with a sense of the personality of Lifey. Notice that one theme in the piano will act as an accompaniment to a different theme played by the trumpet. This piece is thought to capture the lively spirit of both Judy Holliday and her pooch Lifey. To appreciate the context of the titles of the next three selections, some background information is helpful. The respective title of each of these pieces are Elegy for Mippy 1, composed for horn and piano, Elegy for Mippy 2, for solo trombone and foot tapping, and Waltz for Mippy 3, for tuba and piano. I first became familiar with Elegy for Mippy 2 around 1998 when I started preparing it for my trombone senior recital. At that point, the only thing I really knew about Mippy was what the composer had put at the bottom of the page. It said, Mippy 2 was a mongrel belonging to my brother Bertie. That note is printed on each of the three Mippy selections, and herein lies the mystery of Mippy. Are the pieces all dedicated to the same dog, just numbered accordingly? Or were there three separate dogs, each named Mippy 1, Mippy 2, and Mippy 3? A passage from Family Matters, a book written by Burton Bernstein himself, sheds light on the mystery of Mippy, once and for all closing the case on my decades-long mystery. Mippy was, in fact, three separate dogs, and according to Burton, he, as a child, had three mongrel dogs, all at different times, who all answered to the name Mippy. In Family Matters, he says,
In truth, the dogs were my mother's. She loved them most and cared for them best, and they growled at anyone who approached her stealthily, even me. But alas, all the dogs ended badly run over, stolen, or lost. When the third Mimpy escaped from a boarding kennel where we had put him before one of our trips to New York, and never reappeared, Jenny tearfully said to me, I have no luck with your dogs. Sam, too, loved the Mimpies, even to the extreme of confusing them with his children. In distracted moments, he would call to me, running the gamut of his offspring's names, Lenny, Shirley, Mimpy, Bertie. Burton Bernstein.
Burton also briefly explained that the origin of the name Mippy came from a reviewer's sketch that he found particularly amusing. The name Mippy came from a comedy sketch that mimicked a radio program. A brief write-up from the January 1941 edition of the New Yorker magazine describes this sketch as dramatizing the life and times of Ambrose Mippy, a great man of science who invented the shoehorn, and, like all pioneers, was therefore scorned by his neighbors, a reactionary bunch. The slow, long-flowing, and tonally ambiguous themes of this piece serve as a lament, perhaps in reflection of the tragic demise of Mippy I. Imitation in the piano accompaniment and the use of a wide dynamic and note range of the horn provides additional elements suggesting the sorrow and grief of the loss of this pet. Although technically unaccompanied, Mippy 2 calls for the performer to tap their foot in an audible fashion on the beats. This could be to help the listener decipher the often offbeat placement of the phrases and figures. These offbeat figures, along with blue notes, swing patterns, and quasi-improvised passages, give this piece a sense of jazz. The relaxed and laid-back nature of this piece may be meant to capture the nature and personality of Mippy 2. Based on the range and other difficult elements of this piece, it is well suited for an advanced player. The style heading for this piece is, as graceful as possible under the circumstances. This could either be referring to the difficulties of the tuba part, or perhaps to the personality of the dog Mippy 3. Though titled a waltz, the middle section is labeled a la mazurka, which is a different type of triple meter dance style. The final section combines the original waltz theme with the mazurka-like accompaniment, ending with muted tuba fading out while the piano descends one last time, perhaps signifying the end of the era of Mippies. The final piece in this collection is composed for a brass quartet, calling for a trumpet, horn, trombone, and tuba, or bass trombone, and is titled Fanfare for Bima. Bima was a black Cocker Spaniel who was owned by Bernstein's longtime friend and mentor, Sergei Koussevitzky, who was also conductor of the Boston Symphony Orchestra. Bernstein first started working with Koussevitzky as a conducting student at the Tanglewood Summer School in 1940, which 2 short years later, Bernstein found himself as assistant to Koussevitzky at Tanglewood. Bernstein spent many hours with his friend and mentor, some of which being at the Koussevitzky household with the family, and of course, the black Cocker Spaniel named Bima. Koussevitzky and his family had a unique way of calling for Bima, in the form of a short, melodic, 5-note whistle motive, which Bernstein often heard throughout the house. To honor his friend and mentor and his dog, Bernstein used the 5-note whistle motive as the main theme for this brass quartet, stated first in octaves by the trumpet and trombone, then passed around in a fugue-like manner throughout. The climactic ending of this piece employs all 4 instruments in octaves to state a strikingly familiar but seemingly out-of-place motive. Perhaps paying homage to the conducting relationship Bernstein had with Koussevitzky, along with his fascination with Beethoven, the last 2 measures quote the famous Fifth Symphony of Beethoven. I hope you have enjoyed this look into Bernstein's first venture into brass chamber music. By examining the origins of these 5 short pieces, it is quite apparent that Bernstein drew much inspiration from the many close friends and family that he had, and their dogs too.